You are running with the Devils, and we are back talking everything ASU football. Big John Caldwell, the RyKno, Ryan Knowles, as always, here for you. Our seventh season talking ASU football with you here on RWD, and we are so excited. Even though things have kind of gotten a little off the rails here the last few days, that was a fun thing to wake up to Sunday morning, Big John. Seeing that the ASU is not going to play in a bowl game this year, but we'll get into plenty of that. We're going to go position by position. We're going to preview the entire Arizona State Sun Devil roster from top to bottom, stem to stern. It's going to be great. We always have a great, big, epic show in week one. So strap in, get comfortable, grab a favorite beverage, and tune in because we are about to give you the world of Arizona State football. We say give you 30 minutes, we'll give you the world of ASU football, but tonight we're going to need a little bit more time out of you, a little bit more of a commitment, but we're so looking forward to talking everything ASU football with you all season long. And of course we got to kick it off. We'll be talking everything Southern Utah week one, Thursday night at Mountain America Stadium. Of course we got to get used to calling it that. Big John, it's going to take some getting used to. I'm still going to say Sun Devil Stadium on occasion, of course, by habit.
I'll help you. Frank Cush Field. Frank Cush Field. How's that?
That works for me, yes. And so we'll be talking everything that, of course, the beginning of the Kenny Dillingham era in Tempe. And, hey, dilly, Big John, we're very, very excited. The first time ASU's had an alumnus at head coach. And I don't think they could have picked a better guy for the job, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table, him and his staff. And some of the players that they've brought in, a lot of new faces,
right,
in Sparky's Den this year.
51.
Hopefully, we'll have some names to go with those faces before they step on the field.
Normally,
to paraphrase Major League. But a lot of new players, a lot of new faces. Yeah. But we'll get into all of them. We'll break them all down. We had the 30 new transfers. They got like 50 total new players. It's a lot of changeover, but after a 3-win season, that was to be expected. We'll certainly get into all of that. I thought that the conversation would be dominated by the quarterback talk. Jaden Rashada getting named the starter for week one, but no, we're going to be talking the bowl ban, the self-imposed bowl ban that came down on over the weekend. And Big John, we kind of knew that something was going to happen. The NCAA was continuing their investigation from these from the illegal recruiting trips that happened during COVID. I didn't think they were that big of a
alleged.
Yeah, again, alleged. Yes, I know. Got to use that in my vocabulary a little more. But still felt like things were going to be on the up and up for ASU, especially with the staff turnover. All of the coaches that participated in that are no longer with the program. Felt like there was still, there might be something small coming down the pipeline, but we really wouldn't. It would just be kind of a footnote to the season. But instead of ASU choosing to self-impose a postseason ban, that means no conference championship should they get there, no bowl game. And I got to question the timing of this, Big John, because, why did it come down 5 days before the season opener?
Yeah, no, it sucks. Sorry, it plain hurts. And it sucks.
Yeah, sum this up in 2 words. It sucks.
I feel like a player, been gut kicked, and the fans really. We've been through so much, but I have to tell you, I'm going to go back to that picture of Kenny Dillingham. Normally, a young coach like this, you want to see how they react to adversity. He's getting it before the season even starts, and to see the way he's handling it is really it's really telltale. I think we got the right man at the job. He basically said, "Kids, you got 24 hours to get over it," and now we're moving on.
Yeah, that presser after it came down, and the media asking him about it, I felt like his reaction was about as classy and about as professional as you can ask for any coach.
He was
frankly, especially with the kind of frustration he must have been feeling at the time.
Yeah, this was not. He didn't plan on this. He didn't see this coming. But it's funny. 1 year ago, in our preseason or our kickoff, we had as our opening talking point NC2A investigation dragging on forever. And here we are 1 year later. We're still not resolved. This thing for a prior administration that happened now 3 years ago is still kicking us in the tail, and it's just not fair to these kids. It really isn't. And
Yeah, and
um,
they we talked about this pre-show. They kind of used the Tennessee uh, investigation and
mhm,
punishment as a template for what
sure,
they were what they could expect, what they were acting under as far as their the next steps. And basically, ASU just doesn't have the budget that Tennessee has, so they couldn't afford to pay an $8 or $9 million fine to the NCAA. They
right,
really couldn't afford the recruiting reductions
right,
and restrictions that Tennessee also face. Now, to be fair, ASU's allegations are not as severe as Tennessee's. Tennessee had
oh,
like 200 violations
eh,
come up against them, and I don't think ASU's is quite that severe. But to avoid having to dip deep into the pockets and go begging
yeah,
to go into the coffers, go and begging to the alumnus and the boosters, they chose to kind of self-impose this bowl ban
yeah.
to avoid having
Well,
to pay a fine and dip into the athletic budget.
there's a difference between 200 small little violations and a severe violation. What I'm trying to say is we don't know yet. We're going to see the letter of accusation. I'm assuming now is coming really. It should be coming quickly, but the sheer preponderance of them, if in other words, if there's a lot, I don't think there's 200, but because I think they can kind of count how many kids there were
Sure.
who were here, but it's the blatant nature of it. If there really was tours with the whole family and meeting coaches and things. If those are a lot different than a kid who got free swag, or who came on campus and got a shirt.
Yeah.
What I guess I'm saying is we're going to find out, but I think something Ray must have even been telegraphed by somebody at the NC2A, and he has friends there. And with the cadre of lawyers around us, they have from day one, they've been playing the self-sanctioning game, and they made sacrifices from in terms of recruiting that hurt. So we were self-sanctioning 3 years ago with our own recruiting.
Yeah.
We hurt the program to ourselves a long time ago, and yet we're still doing it.
Yeah. Dismissing the coaches.
Right.
I mean, I think they may have even reduced the number of scholarships that they were offering.
We did not yet. We it was number of visits, and
Visit, but that was probably
we couldn't we actually volunteered to stop tweeting and communicating by social media, right? They put two of the coaches out there to be interviewed by the NC2A. There was a whole series of things they just kept throwing out there, and yet here we are.
yeah.
Now
5 days before the season starts, they have self-imposed this, and you really have to feel for the grad transfers who were
oh
coming here for only 1 year. But this isn't what they signed up for. Or you have to also feel for the seniors who have been here for
yeah,
several years and haven't really had a whole lot to celebrate or feel much pride about, and they're kind of any kind of the carrot at the end of the stick. you know what do they have to look forward to?
well,
You really
one of the things,
it's all you really have to, it's really going to separate what kind of kids you really have in your program from the ones that are just here to win or
so
and whatnot.
So I got a question for you. So we know that a freshman can play in 4 games and not burn a red shirt, right?
Right.
Does the same rule apply to a senior into a grad transfer? Is it still 4 games, and then they have to face the red shirt question up? Because there may be kids who say to come to coach and say, "Coach, I want a red shirt for next year. Only play me in 4 games because I want to maximize my year next year." And that would not necessarily occur. It could happen in game 4, but it could happen in game 8 if they haven't played.
Yeah, and that's why it's entirely possible, and
Hmm.
we can only speculate as far as how that goes. I mean, it kind of could depend on whether or not they have a red shirt available.
Hmm.
If they think that they're eligible for a 6th year, if there's a lot of ifs to throw out there. I think it's kind of going to be on a player by player basis.
And yesterday, Kenny was asked this in his interview, and he said, we may have to take a look at this. And he says, I'm a player's guy, and if a player comes to me, I'm going to be hard pressed to not take a look at it. So, and so we asked this question about Ray Anderson. I know the nerve is really raw right now, and you're going to see Thursday night. You're going to see traveling billboards rolling around the stadium. You're going to see T-shirts. You're going to lots and lots of Ray
There's an
emotion.
online petition going around.
It's worse
right
than
now.
that. There's T-shirts being made. They're going to be those
By
guys are going
Ray.
to make a bunch of money, and there's going to be a mobile billboard running around the stadium all night. I get it.
You get one of those banners hanging from an airplane to fly around the stadium too.
Yeah. My thing is, I don't like the idea of people losing their job, but and I have never been a big. I just don't like to weigh in on these kind of things because, quite frankly, it's above my pay grade. But this is not happening in a vacuum, folks. In other words, Ray did not make these decisions cold. There's a group of people around him, who are advising, and he also has friends in the NC2A, and he had to have seen something coming that just was untenable, and this is what he had to do.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't just go to bed Saturday night, and wake up Sunday morning and decide to do the bowl.
But I think
it's
the pattern of the leadership and being late and slow to adopt.
Timing. Look, yeah.
Well, I contend that these overall unwavering support of Larry Scott, the slow to adopt the NIL rhetoric and
Michael
almost
Crow is guilty of this too.
The slow adoption of the portal, all this leading from behind, this late decision making is a trend.
Not seeing the writing on the wall, not seeing the writing on the wall, being blind to it, or just completely or ignoring it altogether.
Quite frankly, I think the whole game changed from checkers to chess when Oklahoma and Texas left and went to the SEC. Everything changed, and because if you remember, Ryan, the Pac made an offer to bring these guys in here, right? And
we talked about the move to the Big 12 ad nauseum during our Week 0 preview. So we won't get too much into that.
No.
But this is a small part of it. So
yes.
This is kind of a little bit of just kind of the one thing after the other, kind of just piling on top as far as ASU not and the conference in general as well,
right.
Not keeping up with the times, not changing with the times, not just trying to keep everything the same, the status quo, when all of this, when all of this much money is involved.
Yeah, and paying people
it
money
can't stay the same. It just can't.
No, it's people got to be pissed. Even U of A people who are probably laughing at us got to be saying this is our tax dollars too. But you asked this question about Ray and all this. I will just tell you, folks, you can protest all you want, T-shirts all you want. He's not leaving until he's dealt with the investigation and mitigated as much as he can for the university. That's the deal. Crow put him in that position. He's a lawyer. He knows the ropes.
And stay as long as his contract allows.
I'm just going to say it this way: lawyers write the rules. Okay, so he's going to be
and accountants.
Yeah, well, lawyers know the law too, and they can tell you what the definition of is. So let's just call it like it is.
And hopefully, I think the thing we're all kind of wondering is, how does the team respond? And I don't know. They're probably not going to face much. They're definitely not going to face any adversity this week. But when that adversity comes, and it will come, if it doesn't come against Oklahoma State or Fresno State, it will definitely come against USC.
Oh,
when it comes, how does the team respond? How do the coaches respond when they don't feel like a kid is playing up to his potential? They don't feel like he's giving a full perfect effort. How do they respond? Do they curse him out? Do they put him on blast in front of the team? How does the player respond to that kind of criticism, or as they like to say, as the kids like to say today, coaching? How does the kid respond in turn? So
I can tell you the big difference in just going to practice, all spring ball, went to several practices this year, went to Camp T for 3 days. The accountability in this team is a whole lot different than it was in the Herm regime. The kids self-regulate. The accountability is there. You screw up, you're running. You screwed up,
and that's what great teams have. That great teams have that leadership at the top, front, that lead from the front, and the team follows, and they get their how their performance will rise and fall based on how the guys up front how they perform, how they act, that kind of thing. And I think you have guys in the program who are doing and saying the right things, in the media, and especially I really like Jalen Conyers' comments. Like he's one of those leaders that you mentioned.
Listen to Jordan Clark, man. My God,
oh yeah,
he's very eloquent about this thing.
He's another one. Yeah, and they're gonna and again they are gonna face some adversity. They're gonna and that the time when they realize that they're not, they may not even win 6 games, of course, but when they do win 6 games, I think it might set in. Hey, what are we really playing for at this point? What are we going out there for? And I think that this is the point. That's the point where you kind of circle the wagons, kind of come together as a team, kind of it's us against the world. That kind of mentality has got to take over, and that's where that extra effort's going to come from. And hopefully that'll be the case.
I'm just going to go on record right now and say I wouldn't want to be U of A in the Territorial Cup game this year. I think our guys are absolutely going to come loaded for that game because of what happened.
It is a long time between now and then, but if things play out well,
what's going to be our bowl game?
The team is showing improvement, and they're maybe winning a couple games that they weren't supposed to win. That a lot of people are counting them out, because a lot of people are counting out the Devils right now. Nobody's picking them to do anything at all this year.
It's human nature. People love to see you get down, beat on you. But I will just tell you right now, that will be our bowl game. That may be the difference between 5 and 6 wins right there.
Very true. It's entirely possible. But ASU teams in the past have always been able to show up in when tough situations get them down, and that's kind of the mark of an ASU team is even when you're down, even when nobody's giving you a shot, go out there, give it your all, and even if the scoreboard doesn't necessarily say that you're the best, you can look yourself in the mirror and you can look at the guy next to you and say, hey, I did everything I could. I got nothing to hang my head about. And I think that's got to be kind of the mentality of the players this year, is just going out there, play for yourself, play for your family, play for your school, play for your peers, play for play for everything else, even if it doesn't include a trophy or your name on a plaque or anything like that. It's still it still matters.
It's still a lot of fun. I played in some losing.
Adopt a similar mentality and say, I'm not. I've seen so many people the last few days on message boards and whatnot saying, I'm not supporting this university. I'm not supporting. I'm not supporting Michael Crow. I'm not supporting Ray. Ray Anderson. Don't do it for them. Do it for the kids. Do it for the players. Do it for these coaches that have only been on the job a few months, and they're the one. We're putting a few dollars into the program by buying tickets and whatnot. They're putting their lives into this program. Their time, their effort, their whole lives are going into this program. Imagine how they feel right now. Basically, this whole season just a wash before it even begins, and they're still going out there and doing everything that they can to put the best product on the field as possible. And I think we owe them, we at least owe them showing up for them.
Yeah, these kids did nothing wrong, and not even in this not even in this coaching group. So
the fans have to respond as the team responds. I think that's got to be the case. And I think even if they're going to go out there and give everything they've got. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Because these coaches, I've seen them, how they are with the players and how they are with the families and everything. They legitimately care, and they're going out there to put the best product they can on the field, and that's worth rooting for.
Yeah, and I will just tell you right now, guys. There's going to be a lot of disappointed seniors in this group. There's a group of freshmen that are coming up. I mean, especially on the DB core. You just look at these guys and go, they're going to be really good with a year worth of experience under their belt.
I agree.
It's
coming. That our time will come before you know it. Again, you have to wait another year. But I look at some of these programs who faced this in the past. Just to kind of put a bow on the bowl ban and whatnot. Miami went through this at one point. They were taught they were the subject of a Sports Illustrated article why the program should be disbanded. They were at the top of the college football world in the late 80s and early 90s, and then all of a sudden NC2A cracks down on them with huge sanctions, huge scholarship reductions. I mean, they had to put kids on track scholarships just to get enough players, and they rode out the storm and eventually won a national championship and should have won another one if it wasn't for a bad call against Ohio.
I'll go back to ASU history.
They rebounded. They rebounded.
Yeah,
and so could we.
I'll go back to ASU history. 1978, Frank Cush enrolled most of the players in a bogus JC class that never took place. We had to abdicate every win in that year, 78 or 79. Within 2 years, that team was one game away from the Rose Bowl. So it is not. This is not. There's plenty of precedent. Is what I'm saying.
This is not the end of the story.
No, it's not.
Yeah, this is not the end of the story. This is just the rising action where the adversity comes, where the problem is. This is not the end of the story. So just give it a little bit of time. See how these teams. I think that the seeds are being planted with some of these recruits that are going to be coming in 2024, as they'll continue to hit the transfer portal and turn this, but they'll turn this thing around. It could take a little bit. I think it could, 2025 is kind of my benchmark for what this team could be.
Kenny said when he came here, give me 3 years. Give me 3 years. And that's how it is for most coaches. By year 3, you got your own players here. You've got you and your coaches. You've got a rapport down. Your culture.
You've got your leaders established. You've got the culture. You've got your traditions established. Things like that make you who you are. Your identity. And now it's time to go and turn that into wins.
Yeah.
And by 2025, look at the third season. That to me is going to be the indicator for what this team is and can be going forward.
And Kenny loves to point out, he's done it more than once, point out that the fastest ascent to a national championship, Kirby Smart, 7 years. Okay, 7 years. They don't. These things are not built overnight, guys.
Look at Mac Brown at Texas. I mean, once he got that stud at quarterback, but it took quite a few years of him kind of laying the foundation, getting Texas back to where they were at one point.
Right.
And just all it took was the right player to kind of get them over the top.
You can change your trajectory, absolutely.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
It's just a matter of just a little bit of timing, a little bit of faith from everyone involved, and you could see some things coming.
What you have to realize, and it's if you see the product on the field and they're putting out effort and they're showing and they're not quitting. That's the first. I mean, energy and playing hard,
playing four quarters as hard as they know how.
That's what you want to see right now, folks.
Yeah.
I know everybody's disappointed about a bowl. I know that's the big reward for a lot of people, but quite frankly, we weren't going to go to the best bowl this year. So what we can do, let's go wreck some teams.
As a first-year coach, you'd still like to see him get those extra practices.
14 practices, and it does help with recruiting and national exposure and all that. But I love the idea of going out and wrecking a lot of team seasons. Just
play spoiler.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? Go out and play.
Nothing wrong with that.
You can play a little on the loose side, right?
Hey, playing with house money. No one expects anything of you. No pressure. Yeah, why not?
I just think you're going to see it when we get into Players of the Year up here, and I think both of us have the same idea that there's certain guys in some key, really in key positions who are going to this kind of rise just because of the character of the kind of kids they are and where they came from. We're very fortunate, but let's get on to what the team sort of looks like.
And so then the ASU did have a lot of players transfer out, and that was to be expected with the coaching change, and kind of some of the turmoil that they went through the last couple of years. Ladarius Henderson might be the best pro prospect out of this group. I think far and away. Going to Michigan, and they're probably going to compete again for a national championship, and they've been to the playoff the last 2 years. So that was I think that's a good move for him. He's definitely he should thrive there. Daniel Ngata was a little bit of a surprise to me. Yeah, we kind of saw the writing on the wall because he didn't suit up for the Territorial Cup game last year.
Yeah.
But, in this offense, I felt like he could really thrive, and I thought he was going to get a lot of carries.
Oh, he was the heir apparent.
Yeah.
Right.
But, I think he might have been a little bit frustrated having been behind, Rashad White, ex-Valade the last couple of years, maybe, and he was one of Herm's guys. So, and seeing him kind of go to a conference rival is a little bit frustrating. But here's the thing. Washington, I was going to mention this during the schedule breakdown, but Washington just lost their starting running back from last year, Cam Davis. And the two guys behind him, one is Mississippi State transfer, the other one's a true freshman. So Ngata hasn't really cracked the rotation just yet.
Yeah, well, that's a tough program.
With him. Yeah, and then you got the three quarterbacks leaving: Bennett Meredith, Emory Jones, Paul Tyson. You kind of figured that was going to happen.
Yeah, none of them could read a defense. Yeah, none of them could read a defense worth of crap. So.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry,
Tyson's got some arm talent, and Emory Jones is a good athlete, but other than that.
Yeah. But I'm
nothing really to write home about there.
Mea culpa. I called Emory my player of the year last year, and of course I looked terrible as a result. I'm sorry. and we
all kind of had high hopes for Emory last year. I think we kind of saw what he did at Florida and thought that was something that he could replicate here against weaker defenses.
Not even.
And he wasn't. I mean, tried to rely too much on his legs. They were trying to put him in situations where he had to throw the deep ball a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And his deep ball just wasn't, he was overthrowing everybody. If you're overthrowing Elijah Badger, there's a problem.
This is true. This is true.
It's just, again, Charles Hall's another guy that, has got blazing speed. If you're overthrowing that guy, you're doing something wrong. So we'll see what he does at Cincinnati. Cam Johnson's another guy who was kind of in and out of the starting lineup last year. Right. Geo Sanders kind of overtook him in the slot. He's at Northwestern now. Some of the offensive linemen taking off. It sucks to lose Ralph Frias because, even though he came from a small school, he's a local kid out of Safford. I really thought at some point he was going to crack the starting lineup as a guard.
Yeah.
Thought he's got that just massive size, but he never really put it all together up here. Ben Scott's another guy who's kind of moved around quite a bit and never really found a home. He's in Nebraska now. We'll see what happens with him.
What was he thinking? When he goes from Hawaii to ASU to Nebraska?
Well,
oh man,
not everybody can go on the right trajectory when it comes to living situations. So in any case, defensive lineman, Omar Norman Lott, he was one of my guys. He was a guy that flashed a lot at times. Yeah. Looked like a guy who could just dominate on the defensive line like another Will Sutton, and he just the mental game just he wasn't all there all the time. He wasn't engaged. He picked up some stupid personal fouls at times. It wasn't very consistent. He took plays off. Very frustrating for a guy with all the talent in the world, really.
Yeah. I thought he was a little miscast as a nose guard at times in this system. You know what I mean? I think he could have been better off the edge
or maybe at the 3 technique, next to the nose.
He wasn't a 5. Yeah, not a 5.
No, it's not a guy I necessarily put him on the outside.
No,
maybe on rundowns. I mean, he's got a great first step. Again, I loved his game. I mean, when he flashed on film, I was like, yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't real consistent. Didn't have it up. His mental game just kind of got to him.
Right.
Dylan Hall was a guy we kind of had high hopes for coming over from Boise State last year as like a pass rusher, and he just never really turned into anything. He just kind of was there, and that was it.
Yeah.
More than anything. Connor Snowley's another guy who really hurts. Of course, his brother Kyle was a mainstay here for 4 years. he's in the NFL now. Connor just does so many things well. He's a big hitter, blazing speed. Felt like, he's another guy in this defense in the middle could have really done some damage, but he goes to Oregon.
Yeah.
DJ Taylor, sorry. I mean, you're of course very close with the Soley family.
Yeah.
So
it hurt. It's I understand why he left. Now, I mean,
so
I didn't.
Hopefully good things for him at Oregon, except when he plays us in the penultimate game of the season.
Well,
and the other guy who was had a great had a couple great moments as a special teamer,
run
DJ
back
Taylor. Yeah,
but he got hurt. I mean, and some of that injury stuff
he
just
struggled
never
to be consistent. He's another guy that kind of moved around a little bit. He came here as a running back, moved to DB. They were playing him at safety for a little bit.
He was frustrated.
Plays nickel corner.
Right.
Jordan Clark kind of beats him out for the spot, and he was a special teams guy, but even then, he didn't always make the best decisions on returns. I go back to that muff punt he had just before halftime against UCLA a couple of years ago, and it was stuff like that. He bring the ball out 9 yards out of the end zone and think he was running against U of A in 2020 again.
Yeah,
and just got to know when to take a knee sometimes.
Sure.
But he's not. It's like Cincinnati's kind of suddenly become ASU East. Emory Jones, DJ Taylor, who was Carter Brown, the kicker, also going to the Bearcats. So interesting to see that. We'll see them in 24 as part of the Big 12. We know the Markham twins. They left the program before last season was over when Herm left. Zaplitsky, another in-conference transfer to USC.
Yeah, he looked good the other night.
Yeah, he did look good the other day, and we 0 against San Jose State. Mentioned Carter Brown going to Cincinnati, so just a lot of outgoing players. But again, that was to be expected with the turnover in the coaching staff. Some more special teams guys here with Jay Speely, also going in conference to Colorado. I don't even know if he's the starting kicker.
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know that either. But then, Robbie Harrison, who we had high hopes for as a freshman, last going to Indiana, that was kind of disappointing. A guy who looked like he was going to play some significant snaps last year.
Yeah, but that's
really cracked the rotation.
Well, he was kind of a one-trick pony. He was a gap minder. He wasn't a rush guy. He was a gap minder, and you couldn't move him out of that spot, right? And quite frankly, in the pack, you got to be able to do more than that.
Yes.
So there's some kids who needed to leave and some kids who were disappointing. But as Kenny says, doesn't want to have people here who don't want to be here. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it would have been nice to have some of these guys as like a transition into Kenny's new regime, but at the same time, you want guys who buy in, who are fully committed, and they were Herm's guys, or previous some of the coaches guys that weren't here anymore. They should be gone.
Ryan, this same time next year, we had brought in 45 portal players. This year, 51. Huge credit to the staff for really drilling down. And I would have to tell you, out of those 45 guys who came in last year, there was a lot of guys who were filling out the uniform. I'll be frank.
Pretty much. Yeah, there were a couple JUCO guys that really didn't look like they belonged.
It was for numbers. It was just to make our
more
numbers.
Than, just like practice bodies and whatnot.
Yeah, and this was a way different group. I think they really did a much better job of assessing talent for this group of 51.
Totally. Yeah, so, and then guys who've gone in the NFL. Nesta Jade Silvera is the only one who actually got drafted. Some of the other guys are looking to stick on rosters. Some graduates here as well. TJ Pesafea, loved watching that kid play. To go from walk on to one of the leaders of that defense last year. Corey Bethley, even though his time here was short, he was well liked and did definitely played his heart out every time he stepped on the field. Definitely a fun guy to watch. Des Holmes, coming over from Penn State for 1 year, was a solid player.
Yeah, he's helped. Yeah.
And then another great Sun Devil fullback, Case Hatch.
Oh, fan favorite.
Definitely loved watching him.
His blocking,
breaking face masks
that
all the
guy,
time.
if I'll tell you, you want to capture, do a film roll, just a highlight reel of that kid, the way he would go out and block as a fullback
Fullback
for you.
corn.
My goodness, yeah, he sprung a lot of good runs and
Oh yeah,
touchdowns inside the red zone.
yeah. People wonder how Valade, had as productive of a season as he did on 3 wins.
Oh,
Case Hatch is the reason why.
that's right, that's right.
So, and now into the full season preview, we're going to go position by position, of course, and we will start with the quarterbacks here on in the 2023 Arizona State Sun Devil football team, named last week as the starter for Week 1. True freshman Jaden Rashada, and Big John, for the 8th consecutive year, Arizona State starting quarterback on Week 1 will be wearing number 5.
Yeah, it's
It's an oddity, to say the least.
Again, you gotta admire the ballsiness, for lack of a better term, of what Kenny did here, because I think this is a potential trajectory changing move. Yeah, I don't agree with it, because I'd much rather take the proven senior and win games than have him earn his reps and clean up. But this is a ballsy move.
And this is the discussion I thought we would have before Sunday on the show. This is dominate our discussion as far as the quarterback decision. But I feel another thing. I thought you were too close to the Bourget family to stay objective. But I won't tug at that thread too hard.
No, I looked at it from the kid's ability to shrug it off. I mean, the one thing we know, you have a bad play, that kid just goes back, he goes right back in place. We don't know that. There's a lot of unknowns. About
Rashada, you mean?
Yes, and where I'm coming from is, I think it's I will tell you this, in this game, I fully expect Trenton to play in the second half. I would
like to think so. Yeah.
You don't want to keep a number 5 in there for the whole game. It's too risky. And for a team like this, you got bigger fish to fry in weeks to come.
And yeah, we will. I'm sure we'll see Trenton Bourget this year. The one thing I will say about the decision to start with Rashada is I think he will be on a short leash, because the one thing about him, even though he's flashed the arm talent and he's made what I would consider a quantum leap from where he was in the spring until now. Because we weren't that impressed with him in spring, to be honest. And to be fair, he was just a couple months out of high school, so it's fair enough. It shouldn't expect too much out of him there. But for what he looked like now, he looked the part, even as a true freshman. That arm talent. I mean, he'll make some throws that'll make you go, wow.
And he's going to have to learn.
He'll also make some decisions that'll make you go, what was he?
Well,
that's the kind of be expected with when you're starting a true freshman.
I fully expect they're going to have to teach him touch. You're going to see a lot of balls, he's hitting people in the hands, going to bounce off hands, and you're going to see hand catchers that go to the chest and it'll bounce off the chest. So he's going to have to, and he does not have the ability to throw a 15-yard fade and drop it in the corner yet.
Into the bucket.
Into the bucket. He doesn't have that. But
that's going to be kind of, at least initially, something that's going to set him back, and plus on the short and intermediate stuff where you kind of have to. Sometimes you don't have to throw a fastball, you got to throw a changeup.
But
and take something off of it a little bit. He hasn't necessarily learned how to do that. And you got to have that touch as much as the throwing power. And again, that's something that I think will come with time as he gets more comfortable with his receivers and the system in a game situation. And I think they want to get him started now so that he is the guy in the future. I mean, you still had some other guys come over in the offseason. Drew Pine came over from Notre Dame, a very high transfer. They kind of expected him to compete with Bourget as the starter, but unfortunately, he tore his hamstring at the Camp T scrimmage, and it's going to be out at least the first we're thinking at least 3 or 4 games minimum, if not longer. Jacob Conover, the local kid from Chandler, came over from BYU. He's another guy, just is there. We haven't really seen a whole lot of him in practice and whatnot.
Yeah, he was getting for number 4 reps.
Yeah, he's kind of just being another guy in the quarterback room.
Yeah, he's a camp arm, as they call it.
Yeah, pretty much. And but I like what I've seen out of Rashada, especially recently. He started to come around a little bit more, and they said yesterday he probably had his best practice since he came to ASU, which is very encouraging. He's getting better as he's getting these first team reps.
Well, what is his reason?
Hopefully he'll go out there and get some confidence against
right.
a lesser opponent.
His getting better at he's studying film and he's getting the read. One read is what he's getting down to. It used to be he had to read 3 guys. Now he's getting it was 2 for a while. Now it's 1. Yeah. Where he's getting that ball out. So this offensive guys is not predicated on a lot of long balls. They like the ability to throw the long ball because it keeps the defense plays you honest, right? They're not going to load the box, but you got to be accurate. They're going to figure out if you're not accurate, they're just going to keep loading the box. But the point is, he will be because he's learning how to read the defense quickly now, and the whole offense is predicated on 3 things: read quick, accuracy, throw the ball away. When you have to throw the ball away.
Yeah, live to fight another down. I think that's something that he's kind of struggled with, and he has been prone to turnovers a little bit in practice, but hopefully that'll come with time. And yeah, there could be some learning, some growing pains for him as the starter, at least initially. But at the same time, I think that's actually a good thing in the long run because it shows that he can be the guy going forward. It's definitely got the arm talent for it, even as an 8-year-old.
And I don't think this decision could have been made with the fact that we have such a good, strong wide receiver and tight end core makes this decision a lot easier.
That will definitely help him, and the fact that I think the offensive line is stronger than it was at this point last year.
Oh yeah.
Well, very encouraging. He's got good pieces around him.
I think you were the first to point out, our run block was pretty darn good last year. Our pass block did not give anybody time to do much of anything.
Not enough, and that was prevalent in the stats when you look at what Valade did last year and what they were able to do on the ground. But you still got, especially in the Pac-12, you still got to be able to throw the ball.
Yeah. And look at a team that
that's what they'll do. That's what they'll do this year. And yeah, you mentioned this. What the offense is going to be predicated. It's going to look a lot like a West Coast offense.
Yeah.
A lot of short passes, a lot of passes to the running back out of the backfield. Working the tight end over the middle and letting them run after the catch.
It's going to be balanced.
A lot of that, and but it's going to be a lot of short, intermediate stuff. But the fact that Rashada has the ability to throw the deep ball, and it he might overthrow some guys, but when you watch him throw, even on passes that are incomplete, it's just like, wow, like how he zips the ball in there is crazy. And I think that's, again, once he kind of learns how to take something off that and trusts his accuracy as well as his strength, then, you might have something special here.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it, to watching his progression. So on to the running backs. The former Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year last year came over. The running back Cameron Scatabo, looks like he's going to be the starter, but they will rotate about 3 or 4 guys in to keep guys fresh, give a little change of pace. There'll be some different looks that'll involve several of these guys, but Scatabo looks to be the guy at least going forward. And he's a outstanding receiver out of the backfield. Kind of reminds me of those Washington State running backs, the guys who didn't really get the ball, didn't really get to run the ball a ton, but caught the ball a lot out of the backfield and made plays after the catch. He kind of reminds me of that, and he kind of reminds me of Demario Richard a little bit.
2.0, yeah. Well,
yes.
I'm by the way,
bowling ball, doesn't have blazing speed, but he'll run guys over. Got a nice stiff arm. He's low to the ground, so he's like a bowling ball. It's kind of tough to tackle because he runs so low. He's going to be fun to watch.
He's going to be. I've been saying since the first day I saw him, he's going to be a fan favorite because he's going to drag people. People love that, right? But I have to tell you, Ryan,
would make Mario Richard favorite.
Even though it's spelled Scataboo, he prefers you to say Scatabo.
Scatabo. That's what I've been saying.
Scatabo. Scataboo. He prefers boo. Scataboo. Oh, that's the way he likes you to say it. Scataboo. So just call him Scatterboo out there. But and watching DeCarlos Brooks absolutely is going to be in the mix, and you're going to see Jacobs and Tevin White.
That's a guy. That's a guy that I'm really intrigued by, DeCarlos Brooks, because he's another Chandler kid. You know, goes out of state, goes to Cal, comes over with Bo Baldwin, the new OC, and I'm really I am absolutely looking forward to him because he's a guy. He's like he's not going to run people over necessarily, but he's got some nice open field speed. I mean, he's a one cut and go type of guy. And if you don't have the angle on him, he's going to take it to the house.
Yeah,
he's fun to watch. I remember his dad. His father was a defensive back on the Arizona Rattlers championship team in the '90s, and if he's got any speed like his dad, look out, because this guy, he is a game breaker. He's not going to shake you necessarily. He's not real shifty in the open field, but he's, you get him in the open with one cut and go. And if you don't have an angle on him, if you don't have guys out in front of him, he'll house it on you because he's got that kind of home run speed. And then your guy Javin Jacobs from Saguaro, very fun to watch. He should be, when he gets the ball in his hands, look out, because he's definitely a playmaker out there. They've been using him in a lot of different ways, kind of like a DJ Foster.
There you go.
Funny, the same high school.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, and they'll line him up at receiver. They'll line him up out of the backfield. I think
slot.
Him and Scattaboo are probably the two best receiving running backs. So they'll catch a lot of passes out of the backfield and underneath in the slot with and whatnot. And Jacobs, they'll line him up out wide. They'll do a lot of different things with him. I'm really looking forward to that. And then Tevin White's another guy who will definitely be in the mix. He's a true freshman last year. Played a lot of big downs when Daniel Ngata left the team, and we saw he flashed. I liked what I saw.
And he flashes. He's still flashing in camp this year. It's kind of like, but it's not every down. And also you go like, where did that come from? Yeah.
He's interesting because when he hits the hole hard, and he'll run some guys over. He's got good size. There's a lot of things to like about him. He's still struggling with the fumbles a little bit. There's things to like, but there's also the vision isn't really there. He's not a great receiver out of the backfield. He's kind of a tweener guy a little bit. On this team, he's probably going to be a power guy. I really like to see them use him in short yardage stuff. I feel like he's a guy you can give the ball to and say, hey, go run somebody over and get in the end zone or get the tough yards. That's going to kind of be his role on the team, at least in the short term. But remember, he's still a redshirt freshman. He didn't burn his red shirt last year. So
last night, Kenny was complimenting the running backs for their blocking ability, how well they
that's another thing. Blocking. He looks the part of a great blocker out of the backfield. So there's a lot to like about Tevin.
Well, I fully expect that you're going to see us play 4 running backs, guys, on a real consistent basis. It's not going to be like a lot of, and these guys are different, and they have their pluses and minuses, just like most running backs. Well, last year we really had
the fact that they can mix these guys in and keep the others fresh, I think is going to be a real important attribute to have for this team, especially in the fourth quarter when you're looking to run the ball and run the clock out.
You can run four different backs.
It's fresh, yeah.
That's going to keep you fresh. It's going to keep that defense.
Who doesn't love a four-headed monster running back?
We haven't had that in a while.
I know I do.
No, that's Kenny is just that. We're gonna. This is gonna be a balanced offense, guys, with 4 running backs playing a lot. As far as touches,
it worked for Georgia.
Yeah.
Moving on here and getting into the receivers, and this is probably going to be one of the strengths of this team.
Absolutely.
From a sheer talent standpoint. Elijah Badger already looks like from the season that he had last year, despite the poor quarterback play at times, when he got the ball in the open, look out, because he was fun to watch. And he's got, between his route running, his speed, his size, there's just so much to like about him. I think the pro scouts are just salivating over what he can. And you pair him with another big talent in Xavier Guillory, excuse me. He's a guy. We already got Badger who's 6'2". You got Guillory who's 6'3". You got some size out there and some guys who can move. I mean, that's a nice 1-2 combination right there. And if the quarterback play, if Jaden Rashada can get on the same page with these guys, this is going to be fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys do as complements to one another. And then Gio Sanders, about as steady as they come in the slot. Great hands, good route runner, guy you can say, get to the sticks and get me the first down. He's kind of our Cooper Kupp, so to speak. Guy who's going to rack up the receptions. Not going to burn you with his speed, but very smart player, good route runner. Lots to like about Gio, a former walk-on who's worked his way into the starting lineup and was big down the stretch last year as well. But he's going to split time with the Colorado State transfer Melquan Stovall, and this kid can absolutely fly.
Yes.
He is a burner out there in the slot, and on plays where you're looking for somebody in a mismatch to run up the seam and beat everybody downfield and hit the deep ball, this is your guy.
Yeah.
He's going to create some mismatch issues. He's a guy that can go out there and be that deep threat for you. That's another guy I'm excited about.
Now, help me. Didn't he had a really good game last year against us, right?
And he was at Colorado State.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the kid who had the huge night.
Tyson. Yes,
Tyson had the big day. I thought he came here. No, sorry about that. No, different. It's nice to have a change in pace in these slot receivers, because if they make the mistake of being in the same defense and not bringing help, someone's going to get caught making a mistake.
And, that's the other thing too. Like Xavier Guillory, even though he was a small school transfer from Idaho State, I mean, he was one of the most coveted guys in the portal. So was Melquan Stovall. I mean, with his speed, even though not the biggest guy, 5'9", 185, he's not going to wow you with his physical traits, but still a guy that just run to the post or the flag and beat everybody downfield. That's the guy who can stretch it for you. And another guy that I'm looking forward to when they put the ball in the air.
That big receiver from Colorado I was referring to, he portaled out.
Yeah,
he split.
And that's and then you go into this team. I mean, after the first like 6 or 7 guys, there's a bit of a drop off. This isn't a super deep group, in part because Jake Smith was ruled ineligible by the NCAA. I mean, there is an appeal right now to try and get him back on the roster, but he is a guy that they were looking for big things out of. One of the most highly coveted high school players a couple years ago out of Notre Dame Prep in Scottsdale.
Oh, great kid.
He's kind of skipped around a little bit, gone to Texas, gone to USC.
He was hurt.
And he was hurt. He's been battling some injury issues, but still a guy with a ton of talent, and certainly somebody that I'd really like to see, and hopefully gets to see the field here in Tempe at some point.
Yeah, it was sad at the camp when they announced that he wasn't going to be able to play. Everybody, it was like a big blow that he wasn't going to be able to play.
And he still could. I mean, the jury's still out on that. They haven't officially ruled yet as far as that goes, but hopefully we'll be able to see him at some point. And then rounding out the receiving core, Troy Omier, the Texas transfer, another guy with nice size at 6'4", 215. Somebody I kind of see as a red zone threat, somebody that you kind of just throw the ball up and let him go get it. Definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. Another holdover from one of the few holdovers from last year, Andre Johnson.
Oh man,
local kid out of Tolleson.
Yeah.
When when he puts it all together, he's got a chance to be something.
He can play. He's a playmaker.
He's flashed it. He's hit flashed at times, and he's been fun to watch. It's just kind of taking him a minute to kind of put it all together, but I definitely like what I've seen out of him. He's going to play some big downs this year. I'm really looking forward to him. And then another guy who was very highly coveted in the transfer portal after the new regime in Colorado, and a guy you kind of mentioned earlier,
Right.
who had a huge game against the Sun Devils last year.
Yeah.
Had 200 yards receiving, returned a punt for the touchdown. Jordan Tyson was a nice get, but
right.
he's been hurt for most of camp.
Right.
Hopefully we'll see him at some point, but I'm not sure. We're not real sure what's going to happen with him just yet, how significant his injury is. Hopefully we'll see him. And then a couple freshmen, Caleb Black, Corbin Hendricks, and then the former walk-on, Trenton Bourguet's brother, Coben, is another guy who we certainly hope to see in the mix, because he's a guy who had at the Canty scrimmage had a couple nice plays.
He's very sure-handed.
Definitely like to see him.
Big catch radius too on that kid. So a lot to like in this receiving core, even though it's not super deep, and but I definitely like what they have. We all saw what Elijah Badger could be last year. Mm-hmm.
He definitely just jumped off the page with his talent. And if he's got a consistent quarterback who can get him the ball in positions to make plays, we're going to see just how good he can be. And then same goes for Xavier Guillory, the guy who flashed in a small school in Idaho State. See what he does on the bigger stage. A lot of talent, a lot of things to like about this group.
The thing I love about Badger is that he has that Brandon Ayuk kind of speed. After you catch a ball, he just shifts gears, and he's hard to catch up with.
Yeah, I think the coaches have kind of realized that and put him out. They're putting him out there to returning kicks.
Yeah.
Something we didn't really see much of last year. So I'm maybe get him the ball more often in special teams and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that could certainly benefit for him. And then another strength of this team, I think, is the tight ends, and those two guys up front, Balin Conyers and Messiah Swinson. Both of them had good years last year. Conyers, especially the back half of the season, he looked like one of the best tight ends in the country with just some of the plays that he was making. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with a full season under his belt. Messiah Swinson, definitely a nice complementary piece at 6'7". Another guy you say, just screams red zone target. Mm-hmm. and somebody that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do, because they'll use a lot of two tight end sets, especially in play action. So if the running game is going, that'll open up the middle of the field for the tight ends. And with these two guys, they've got chances to make plays.
Yeah, I think why they're among probably the best duo for tight ends in the pack is their 50-50 ball. It's just these two will dominate. These two should dominate.
They'll go up and get them. I mean, you got Conyers.
They're tough.
They're 270 who runs like a thoroughbred. Yeah, and Swinson, not the most fleet of foot, but he's 6'8", 260. And he
Conyers lots of people.
He's a guy. I say goes up and gets the 50-50 ball every time. So
Conyers will take it away from you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
He'll
box you out and rebound. Rebound the ball for you. High point it. So
he just has attitude like, that's my ball. You're not going to get it. Sorry.
You love that attitude. And at that point, that 50-50 ball becomes 70-30.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah.
And then you got Bryce Pierre and Ryan Morgan filling out the group. Bryce Pierre's kind of flashed at times. He's a guy. He's a good route runner. I like what I've seen him in limited action. He finds a way to get open, and that's what you want.
They're all big. They're all over 6'4". They all got the size, and thank gosh, what a great assignment for a first-year college coach in Jason Mons to have a group like this, man.
Yeah.
What a resume builder. And to watch Jason out there, he is such a good tactician and such a good instructor. Everybody, he's so good in instructing.
Yeah, and you've been a big supporter of the Saguaro program for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well,
so you've had a chance to see his work up close and personal. And I've been a fan of Jason Mons. I had a chance to meet him a few times.
It's the details.
Yes. And definitely worthy of being a college coach. And I definitely like what I've seen so far out of him as the ASU tight ends coach. So switching to defense. Offensive line. I thought there was one more. Offensive line. definitely, probably the most crucial group, I think, aside from quarterback. I think, and this is a group that I think is, with some of the transfers that they've gotten, is definitely taken a step forward from where it was a year ago. That was one of our big concerns going into last year, was the offensive line depth. I felt like they were one injury away from really being in a bad spot, and ultimately that injury did come in the form of Joey Ramos in the opener. Hopefully, doesn't happen again.
And Glass went down last year too.
He was hurt for part of the year, but he still played most of the year. He was still pretty solid.
Yeah, but moving Boley over to his side really was a kind of a compromise, I thought.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, I like Boley, but he's not a left tackle. Yeah,
no, he's not a left.
Yeah, that was really tough. But I feel like with some of the moves that they made, I felt like that was a focus of this coaching staff, was getting better on the offensive line, getting some more guys in here, really playing, making this a deeper group. And I feel like they've done that. Bringing in another former Saguaro kid in Bram Walden over from Oregon. He's pushed Glass at left tackle.
He's healthy,
and I think they'll rotate those two guys a little bit. Walden's got, I think, has got pro level talent at the left tackle spot.
Got to stay healthy.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to stay focused and play. Not take plays off and things like that. But he's definitely pushed Glass in camp, which is an encouraging sign. I feel like that's something that he can kind of build on, and he's gonna see some snaps this year for sure. And one of the
nice push.
And they definitely made, like I said, they made recruiting the offensive line and trying to get some more guys in from the transfer portal who were ready from day one a priority. They got at left guard Sion Finau from Purdue, Lee Fautanu, who's a true center and not a converted guard like they've had a little bit last years out of UNLV. Was an all-conference player at the position last year. He was a big get. I mentioned Joey Ramos, who was a big get out of the transfer portal last year from Iowa State, local kid from just up the road from me, actually, at Deer Valley High School here on the west side. And a guy I was very excited about, was very highly recruited, and he had a tremendous camp last year before, and then he got hurt in the opener against NAU and was done for the year, and he really looked like he was going to be something.
In the spring, Ramos really showed. I said he's ready to play now. Was really coming into his own in the spring.
And we really weren't sure where he would play, because he started at right tackle last year. Right. But he's going to be a guard at least to start this year. But I like what I've seen out of him. And then right tackle was kind of a battle all year. They brought in Aaron Frost from Nevada to kind of be that guy. Emmett Boley, of course, came over from North Dakota State before last season, and kind of struggled a little bit at times. But he's a guy who's really made some serious strides and improved so much at the position. We thought he was kind of a guard. Didn't think he could handle the speed rush, but he really improved. He really improved last year.
His footwork has improved.
That
first kick
how
out.
You defend speed rush is with footwork.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's definitely taken a nice step, and I like what I've seen out of him. And he's gonna be the right tackle. He's won the right tackle job out of camp over the Nevada transfer, Aaron Frost. But Frost should still be in the mix, along with another holdover, Ben Bray. Who they played at center, but he's really more of a guard, to be honest. He is penciled in as the second team center at the moment behind Tanu, but his natural position is guard, and it's really what I think he should stay.
And in watching him in camp for a while, he's the kind of center that where you really if it's not coming to your hands, it's coming to your feet, it's coming up here, and
we saw that when he was in the game last year, because Ben Scott was really the center last year, and he was a lot more consistent than Bray was. And
you can't run your offense on that.
Yeah, and then that's another reason why they brought in another center in the transfer portal, and Cade Briggs. He's behind Bray actually at the moment, but he's more of a true center. His blocking may not be the best, but at least he's not going to snap it over your head or give you a ground ball when you yell hike. Another guy they had really high hopes for coming out on a transfer from Cal was Ben Coleman. And this is a kid, grad transfer. We're looking forward to seeing some nice things from him. His dad was a player for the Cardinals for a couple years, and unfortunately he got hurt during spring ball. It looks like he's going to be out for the year, which is a tough blow. But we'll hopefully get to see him at some point.
Yeah.
And then just rounding out the group here, a couple freshmen and Sean Naa and Siri Candielli, Kyle Scott and Max Hanacor also filling out the mix here at offensive line. So definitely a deeper group. I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah,
this group. Hopefully they can stay healthy, because there is a little bit of a drop off at some positions between the ones and the twos.
You must have in this group, folks, if you want to succeed in D1 Power 5 football, you need 8 solid offensive linemen. We got 8. Okay, we got 8.
Yeah, I agree with that.
After 8, it does start to drop off a bit. But if you can play 8 and keep them fresh, or have somebody go down and have somebody move over, and we have a nice group of 8 we can play. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I definitely feel more confident than last year, because I think we had 6.
Oh,
if I'm hard pressed, maybe 7.
Maybe.
Yeah, and then after Ramos went down, it was 6.
It got to be kind of ugly. You're right.
Yeah, it was a little bit, but I think I definitely have a lot more confidence in this position than last year. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what this group does.
As we said last year, we were strong on run block. I think we'll be probably better at pass block this year, just because of the 8, the quality of the 8. So that's all good.
Ben Coleman was kind of going to be the guy who was going to be the big run blocker. They run a run behind. He was kind of going to be this group's Donovan West.
Mm-hmm.
But losing him, that's kind of a blow. But I still like what I've seen, and I think they'll be okay.
You know, it's really interesting. Every year, Ryan, Rapper calls me up and he goes, "All right, who's going to be the center?" Every year, that's the first question he asks: "Who's going to be center?" And you know why? Because that guy's the first guy to touch the ball, and he's the general. He's the first guy.
And Rapper, the former quarterback, he's looking at the center. He wants to know what's going on with that guy.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a player of interest for him.
For him, that's how he sees the world. If you got a good center, you got a chance.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I find that completely fascinating, but
that's
true.
I think that was definitely a position of focus, I think, in the transfer portal this year, and getting Fautanu as a true center who was accomplished. I mean, has played the position at a high level, granted a small school and small conference, but still a guy you can rely on, is not going to be a turnstile and not going to snap it over his quarterback's head every other play. I think is very encouraging. So kudos to the coaching staff for going out there and getting those guys.
Sure.
And now switching over to defense. Defensive line. Looking forward to seeing what this group does. They got these are some more. These definitely got some interesting players on them.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what.
I'm jacked. I'm jacked for this group.
And I'm looking forward to it. And one of the holdovers, a guy who went into the transfer portal and came back out.
Came back.
Yeah. I'm so happy that he did, because I love his game. He's a former walk-on, a guy who has come up the hard way and earned every single thing that he's got. He actually led the team in sacks a couple of years ago. BJ Green, just a guy who, when he's healthy, man, the guy, he looks like he can play with anybody.
Yeah.
Just he's got all the moves, and you can line him up inside and outside. He's versatile. Just does a lot of things well. Sets the edge. Gets after the quarterback, can just do so many good things for you. And
he's likely to take
definitely one of my favorite players on this.
He's probably going to be taking the double team side more, with the tight end.
Strong side, yes.
Strong side, and you're going to let Clayton Smith be more the fast twitch technique,
the true pass rusher, yes,
the edge guy, yeah. And so, folks, we haven't had 2 true DNs in a long time here. We've manufactured tackles to ends. We've got guys, but nothing this quick.
And vice versa. Yes.
So this is
Yeah,
this
and
is a different look.
yeah, that's why I think that this group intrigues me from a
Right.
sheer talent standpoint. I'm a little bit concerned what they'll look like in the middle, just because I don't know what they're going to look like as far as stopping the run. I think is got to be crucial for this team. This is something that they struggled with so much
Yeah.
last year, was stopping the run. But they got one of the best nose tackles and the best run stuffers on the market in Deshaun Mallory, the Michigan State transfer. He should be a nice, space eater guy that you can go out there and say, hey, take up some blocks, give the linebackers behind you opportunities, and a guy who's, can get after it a little bit and make some plays
And
at
his
the D
backup,
tackle spot.
with feet, when he gets healthy, he's got a boot on right now. But when feet gets healthy, folks, and you gotta love this kid. He is all smiles. He just has no. He's sunshine. I'm telling you. But
Plays with a lot of energy. Yes,
yeah,
as probably one of the highest, talent, one of the most talented true freshman defensive tackles we've had here.
He's got a motor on him.
Yeah, I mean, you keep making the comparison to Tayshawn Smallwood, and I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing him play when he's healthy. You see him on there, marked as injured, at least, initially. We'll see what he looks like when he gets healthy. And then, another transfer, Tristan Monday, another Saguaro kid.
Yes.
Actually went over from University of Wisconsin, coming home. He's going to be the other D tackle start. I thought his natural position was D end. They're sliding him inside in this defense, but he's a guy who can certainly make an impact for him.
He's in shape, and he's not hurt, and he can play tackle. I mean, he wasn't an every down D end kind of kid.
6'3", 310 as a redshirt freshman. That's encouraging. That's a guy who should play inside at that size.
Move him inside. He'll be fine. Tristan's just got to learn. He's just got to become an animal out there. He's got to learn to flip the switch and become a little more of has some more dog in him. I think
he's got the right coach to do that. Vince Amy is definitely a guy who's molded some animals in the past. So definitely looking forward to that. And then of course Clayton Smith. And then we kind of skipped over Prince Dorba as well.
Yeah, you like that kid a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well him and Clayton Smith, I like them both. I thought they would kind of be the Oklahoma and Texas bookends. But I like them both. I like what I've seen out of both of them, and while BJ Green's kind of penciled in as the end at the moment,
you can't deny him. Yeah,
Dorba will definitely see some time. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we have in Clayton Smith, because he could be one of the most talented pass rushers that we've had here in a long time. A guy who's like he'll set the edge in the run game. A guy who will pin his ears back and come after that quarterback with everything that he's got. And that's, a high motor guy, somebody with speed, can change direction, change speed, do a lot of different things well on the outside when it comes to rushing the quarterback.
I love having a Green, Smith, Stansbury, that rotation of those three guys, right?
And we'll see that. We'll see that plenty, I'm sure. Now that Stansbury's another guy who,
he looks
had a hard time staying healthy. He had the hardest time staying healthy. And now that he is healthy, I think he's going to play some big snaps this year for sure.
He's in great shape. He's just all yoked up out there too, man.
Nice.
But yeah, he gets after it. Whew.
And then one guy that I think we all kind of felt like his career was done. When he announced he was going to miss all of last year, I thought, we all kind of thought Michael Matus was his playing career was kind of done at one point. But he got that extra year. He's back now, and I mean, he's buried on the depth chart a little bit with some of these transfers, but he's another guy who will definitely see the field a little bit, and he's one of the big leaders out there. That was the thing. He could have moped and just stayed away from the program and kind of woe is me type of deal. But no, he went out there and he was coaching up the guys last year.
That's right.
He was making an effort to really make his teammates better, even though he couldn't play.
He on any given play, you'll see him in practice. He knows where every single person on defense is supposed to be, and he will tell them where to line up. He's not bashful, but he is like a field coach out there for you as a
Yeah,
player. You love that
yeah.
kind of player, you know.
And then some exciting young players. I like what they went out and did and got some guys, a couple guys in Elijah O'Neal and
Mhm.
Ashley Williams, who
Mhm.
should be good players in the future. May not see too much of them this year, but a couple guys that I'm looking forward to. And another guy who actually went in the transfer portal and came back was Anthony Cooper. And
He's hurt.
he's another guy who's hurt at the moment. Hopefully, we will get to see him sooner rather than later. And he's another guy. They kind of they moved him inside. He was playing defensive end, and now he's on the D tackle.
I kind of like that move.
Hoping we'll get to see him at some point.
He's more of a north-south rush kid. He's not a get out, throw the technique around the edge kind of guy. He's more north-south. But love his story, love his motor, and he's a local kid. We're really pulling for him.
Definitely, and so hopefully he comes back healthy. And I like the rotation. I like because this is another group that really looks good on the two deep.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a little thin in the middle as far as unproven kids. But once Fight kind of gets in the flow of things and gets healthy, and they get Anthony Cooper back, this is a group that I'm very, very excited for.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So. And the linebackers, we only have two here because they will be in a base nickel most of the time. Most teams three wides, so ASU will have three corners out there most of the time. But you will see three corners and two linebackers. But you will see them play three linebackers quite a bit. But at least for just for posture's sake. This is, the starting linebackers will be Travion Brown, the Washington State transfer who followed defensive coordinator Brian Ward here from Pullman. And then Tate Romney, the BYU transfer, who's another local kid.
Local.
Yeah. I think he's a Chandler, isn't he? Chandler?
Yes, he's a Wolf.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then rounding out the group, Caleb McCullough will see some significant snaps behind Brown. Will Schaefer is probably going to be that third linebacker when they go to three. He'll be the third guy taken on the strong side, and then the special teams ace, who's just a tackling machine out there, James Jonkum, is another guy who's kind of been one of my guys. I like his game, like his motor. Guy just loves to go out there and hit people.
Oh God, he loves to hit.
And he's a fun guy to watch. And speaking of guys to watch, another guy who could see the field quite a bit this year is the true freshman Kavion Thunderbird.
Oh my God, they're
raving about this guy,
absolutely.
how much talent he has.
Freshman,
I'm definitely hoping that he kind of finds his way onto the field a little bit and gets some opportunities this year because he looks the part. That's for sure. So, and then on the defensive backs, a group that should be pretty strong for the Devils this year, especially with the return of both corners. The big man, Ro Torrance, who just shined last year. Only had one interception for the season, but definitely looks the part at 6'3" and was drawing some tough assignments last year, and was up to the task every single time. He was a guy who I think we were all kind of expecting big things out of, the former Auburn Tiger, and he came over and really played his role very well, and it's a guy that I'm looking for big things out of this year. And then another corner, Ed Woods, a guy who's when he's healthy, about as solid as they come. Nice size at 6 foot. Just a very good complementary piece to Ro Torrance, and somebody that has the ability to be a shutdown guy on any given Saturday. And then one of the stars and leaders of the team in the slot is Jordan Clark,
Absolutely.
A guy who plays with no fear, great tackler, just continues to make plays on the ball. A ball hawk. He'll go up and go get the interceptions, and always seems to find himself around the ball, no matter where he's lined up.
Yep.
And definitely one of the high energy guys on this defense is going to kind of lead by example, but also will get in guys' faces. And he's definitely fun to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this year. He's just a guy that you got to keep an eye on because you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah. Well, he's the kind of kid that when the lights are on, he makes plays.
Oh yes, he
That's
brings it. Absolutely, just like his dad Ryan.
he
Def,
gets yeah. This
Definitely
is his
fun to
time
watch. And then
time to
at,
shine.
at the safety spot, another guy from last year, Chris Edmonds, who really shined. Coming over a small school kid, really didn't know what to expect out of him
Right.
last year, and he definitely played up to the competition and looked the part. Had a couple of interceptions, made some nice plays on the ball. Good tackler, does a lot of things very very well. And then a couple of transfers in Shamari Simmons and the former USC Trojan Xavier Alford coming over and playing the other safety spots. Those guys will be fun to watch as well. They've definitely flashed in camp, and definitely looking forward to seeing what happens when they step on the field.
Yep.
And then, in the reserves, D Ford is another guy who was an all conference last year at Austin P. He's coming over from the small school.
And, the coaches are high on him.
Yeah, and he's a guy who's going to play big, even though he's only about 5'9". He plays big for his position. He's got great speed. He can stay with anybody. Nice special teams player as well. Mm-hmm. Definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. Probably a reserve at least to start the year, but I'm sure he'll get opportunities to play this year. Same goes for Mason Williams, a guy who's been in the program now a few years. Has flashed at times when he's gotten opportunities. He's just kind of been buried behind guys on the depth chart, but still a guy I could see making an impact at some point this year. Roman Rashada, Jaden's brother, came over as a transfer. Looking forward to seeing what he does as well. Gene Boyd III is kind of an enigma to me a little bit because
special teams guy.
Special teams guy. He's also started at safety a few times. They have him listed as a corner, which is interesting to me because he's a bigger guy, kind of looks more like a safety, but I think he's capable of playing both. And because the safety spot is a little bit thin, you could see him go over to safety at some point. Mm-hmm. And then the true freshman Keontae Bradley is another guy who's looked interesting at times. Definitely somebody to look forward to in the future. And speaking of the future, another guy who looks like he could make a big impact at the position at some point and could certainly see the field is Montana Warren. Now, he's a guy who always seemed to come up with an interception at some point every practice. But unfortunately, he had a shoulder problem. He got hurt up at Camp T, and hasn't really been the same since. And he's been sidelined quite a bit with that shoulder problem. So we don't know when or if we will see him this year. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's hard to say.
Big talent. This kid goes out and just picks balls, man.
And he's definitely a guy that we're all kind of looking forward to. And I'm really looking forward to watching him play when he gets healthy. And then going on to special teams to kind of wrap up the positions here. One guy that I think there's always been kind of that inconsistency at the kicker spot the last few years. They basically raided the hen house when at Cal. Bill Baldwin, Charlie Reagan, the former Cal coach, kind of brought over his guys. He's a special teams guy. Yeah, he kind of brought over his own guys. Kicker Dario Longhetto, Josh Carlson, the punter, and even the long snapper Slater Zellers, all were Cal Golden Bears last year. Mm-hmm. So at least they're comfortable with each other. They're familiar with each other. There shouldn't be any issues with the snap and the hold and whatnot. So hopefully we'll get some consistency out of the position as far as somebody who in Longhetto who can kick not just who can kick for both distance and accuracy. Because it's been a while since we had a guy who could do both. Probably Brandon Reese, to be honest, as far as guys who could do both.
He's a better athlete. Yeah. Watch Dario.
Yeah, and then in the return game, Javin Jacobs, Melquan Stovall are a couple guys who should be fun to watch. They definitely have home run speed and home run ability every time they touch the ball. So look for them in the return game as well as Elijah Badger.
Yeah, don't be surprised if Badger's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, as a kick returner, and D Ford. D Ford's another guy that they might put back there to return some kicks as well.
Sure. So
and then onto the schedule, and it's going to be a tough one this year. Even though ASU does have 8 home games, which should be interesting. But I will say this: Southern Utah. We'll get into them here in a moment. Kind of the big first test is going to be Oklahoma, Mike Gundy and the Oklahoma State Cowboys coming into ASU a week from Saturday.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what they look like. Breaking in a new quarterback, and now that Spencer Sanders has moved on.
They're not as deep.
They're not as deep. Yeah, that defensive line kind of got picked over a little bit between graduation and transfers and what have you. Be interesting to see what they look like if ASU can, if they can just stop the run. I think against them, that might be a big key to making that a game. So we'll see what happens with that. Fresno State, always a big competitor. Maybe not necessarily with the talent level of ASU, but still a program that's well coached and has they're scrappy. They're not going to lay down for anybody. They have nice tradition. Players.
Well, it sets up nicely though. It sets up nicely. Southern Utah, Oklahoma City. You should be getting. You really should have your identity by the time you play SC out of this.
Yeah, I would hope so. And that's we say that every year. Kind of by the 4th game, you should know who you are, and you should be in a position to be competitive and play your game and know what your game is. So hopefully that'll be the case. And then USC, we know what they're about. Reigning Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams. Got a chance to see them week 0 against San Jose State. They struggled in the first half a little bit, but turned it on. They should be a competitor in the for the conference title. First road game of the year, end of last week of September against the Cal Golden Bears.
Yep.
Not really expecting much from them.
No, not really.
But Justin Wilcox is a good coach. Always going to have that defense playing well, but their offense is a big question mark right now. So being able to see what they look like come week 5. And then Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes coming into Sun Devil Stadium October the 7th. That'll be the glow-in-the-dark uniforms, Big John. A little something for the kiddies there.
Just win. Let's just
and
win,
we don't
baby.
really know what Colorado is just yet. Be very interested to see what they look like against TCU this weekend. Definitely intriguing with Deion and some of the skill position guys that he's brought over, but the way he kind of dismissed over half the team, and breaking in as many new players as he is, I'm sure they'll put points on the board. They have some exciting players in the skill positions, but I just don't know what they're going to look like up front.
I mean,
in the trenches, I don't know if they can how well they're going to protect that quarterback, Shader Sanders, Deion's son, and just what they're going to look like.
To lose that I thought their best wide receiver, who really made it, had a human highlight film against when we played them up there last year. To lose that
Jordan
kid,
Tyson.
I keep going back to him. For them to walk a kid out of there like that, just man.
Yeah, and then they also lost Montana Lamonius Craig, their other good receiver. He's at U of A now.
Right.
So I mean, they did kind of take some talent away that had been there, and even though the team wasn't very good, it's still a solid. They had some playmakers.
You can see talent.
I don't like the way he kind of turned over that program. I mean, he kind of had to with just the complete lack of talent and the mess that Carl Durrell left there.
Yeah.
But they're gonna go through some struggles at some point this year between the lack of depth, just the sheer number of new players that they have, and ASU will go through the same thing. But also, I don't think they put enough emphasis on recruiting the line on both sides of the ball. I felt like there was just too much emphasis on skill position players.
Yeah,
that the line kind of got overlooked a little bit. I think that's they're gonna struggle
well,
there this season.
same thing happened where Dion came from. The
Oh.
program he had. Yeah, he didn't
Well,
recruit
even
that
though
well.
Jackson State, yeah, but you're dealing with a whole different level of competition now, and I don't think
Absolutely.
that's where talent, sheer
Mhm.
talent alone, is not going to carry you
Well,
to 10-win season.
I mean, Herm Edwards, he was not prepared for the speed and the athleticism and the size of these kids in his first year, even his first 2 years. I thought he really had to make big adjustments and realize that this is big boy ball here.
Yeah, and
I,
that's
and
this is power five. Power five, yeah, you're going to get that, and I
whew,
think that's where Dion might struggle a little bit, and at least initially. Yeah, he's brought in some interesting kids, some intriguing players that are going to be
mhm,
fun to watch. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty, and you're playing the Utahs and the USCs who know how to grind you down, what's
yeah,
your team going to look like? And that goes back to coaching, and we're going to see what he's all about as a head coach very quickly, because
yep.
facing the reigning national runner-up in TCU is going to be
Don't you
very.
don't you just love the way Fox is trying to promote that game? It's all about Dion. you know, they're not,
Don't forget about TCU now. I mean, yeah, they had
I
some
know.
roster turnover after last year, but
They're
they're still
they
pretty legit, and
they
they're
are.
gonna be they're gonna be a tough test for that team this one. So
I talked to young players in high school who said that they liked the way they play.
yeah, what's
They
not
were
to like? Yeah,
very attractive to high school players. They thought TC really had something going on last year. As far as what the
yeah,
program's
well,
doing.
yeah. Look,
It,
and it's undeniable what they did. So,
yeah, yeah.
and moving on here, Washington should definitely compete. A lot of people have them in the college football playoff this year
Mhm.
at winning the Pac-12. Michael Penix, that quarterback, that Roman Adunze at running at their wide receiver, I should say. Uh, some of the players that they're bringing back on defense. And Kalen DeBauer has really turned that program around. He's got them playing very, very well.
Mhm.
That's going to be a tough program, and one that I think you look at and say they can make some big noise,
Well,
not just
look
not just in the conference, but nationally.
how they rebounded after a surprising loss to us last year. They didn't let us beat them twice. They went out and played well after that. They really honed down. They really sharpened up their game, I thought. Um,
Oh, and then you got Washington State's. We know what they're going to put some points on the board. Brian Ward, the former DC from the Cougars, is here
mhm.
now. Be interesting to see how he game plans against Cam Ward and some of those receivers that they have there. I mean, they'll do some different. This isn't your daddy's Washington State team. They're going to run the ball a little bit. They'll do some different things. They played defense last year. We'll see what they do this year. Definitely an interesting group to watch.
I love the fact that.
Even though they're coming here,
Thank you.
that's still a game I think you got to have circled on your calendar or something.
How many years in a row did we play there? It was like
Oh
three
my
or four.
gosh!
It was
And it
ridiculous.
was always like late in the season too.
Yeah, when it
I
was
know.
scary, nasty weather.
Yeah.
We finally got them at home.
Speaking of cold weather, we got Salt Lake City there in.
I'm
I
sorry that.
think that one. I think that one's is that one a road? I think that's.
Uh, oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, that is at Salt Lake City.
It is.
Yeah, it's 2 straight road games there to start
Yep.
November
Yep.
for that group. So, and the other thing I will say about Washington, at least you got to buy before you face them up in Seattle.
Mm.
So there's that. But Utah, UCLA back to back is on the road is going to be interesting. Utah, we know what they're definitely going to compete for the conference title. Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham, that running attack, that great defense.
Mm-hmm.
They're always in competition to win the Pac-12, and they upset USC last year to win it, kept USC out of the playoff.
Yes, they did.
That's a team that didn't have a lot of turnover. They got some players out there for sure, especially in the trenches, and running back. And then you got Rising in there, and they have one of the best tight ends in the country, in Brent Queethy, who I will say this though for Utah, Cam Rising, Queethy, both hurt at the moment.
Yes.
Haven't cleared to play as of yet. So we'll see what happens with that. Definitely
Yeah.
us keep an eye on. We'll see what they look like, come November.
I got
And
one for you though, Ryan.
yeah, yeah,
It really seems like the offense is geared around score and score and put the foot down, put the pedal down and score. There's going to be some games in here where I think we're going to have to really look at clock management a little bit and how I know I just really want to see what this young staff does to put themselves in a game with Utah and maybe watch the clock and how they manage that game instead of always going, wanting to put that defense back on the field again.
yeah. That's a game you might have to beat Utah at their own game.
That's what
Play
I'm
it,
saying. I think you're gonna have to be
grind it
really
out, low scoring, run heavy
there you
type of
go.
game, especially early November in Utah.
That's right.
It could be snowing there.
Yeah.
It could very easily be
Or,
snowing there. You might
or
have to
sleety.
run the
Yeah.
ball, run the
That
ball to be competitive. So
I'm just thinking, because I've heard him talk about score, 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 score. And that's great. Fans love it, and when you're scoring over 40, 42, you're going to get noticed, but we're not going to a ball. Let's figure out how to beat some of these teams at their own game.
yeah.
It's,
And then you got UCLA. That's going to be an interesting game as well. Chip Kelly.
mm,
Now no DTR this year for the first
Finally.
time in like 5 years.
Yeah.
That's and they looked like they were going to start the true freshman Dante Moore it was one of the highly recruited quarterbacks
Mhm.
out of Detroit, but they're actually going to Ethan Garbers, who was DTR's backup for the last
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
That's an interesting move. Um, we'll be interested to see what they look like. Losing their, Zach Charbonnet was so good at running back for them last year. He's in the NFL. Be interesting to see. They had a little bit of turnover on that roster at the skill
Right.
position spots.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what they look like and how they come out. Because they did have some success last year. They did
Did
have
DT did
did look.
TT did DTR make the cut today?
I believe he did with the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns. Yes, I
Browns,
think
yeah.
he is going to be Deshaun Watson's backup.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
and then you got Oregon.
Two big
We
ones
know
at home.
they're to end the season. Yeah, they're going to be interesting to see where they're at because they look to be another team that looks like they could compete not just for the conference title but for a spot in the college football playoff this year.
Right.
That quarterback Bo Nix, ever since he left Auburn, and Kelly Dillingham should take some credit for this because he was with Bo Nix last year. This is an Oregon team that can put some points on the board, and
I was
they look a little scary. I can't lie. This is
I,
from a sheer talent standpoint.
I was
This
so
looks like
impressed.
one of the best Oregon teams in recent
Yeah.
years.
You and I went out to see Oregon and Georgia play last year in the kickoff
Yeah.
classic, and Oregon got hammered, and they were team speed beat them and everything. But I was so impressed with the way Nick's turned
Well,
that thing,
the defending national. What did you? Well, I mean, honestly, what
Yeah.
do we expect though? The defending national
Yeah.
champ from the year before, they ended up being the national champs again that year, undefeated.
Yeah. Right.
So I
But
mean,
what I'm saying
I
is,
really wasn't that surprised, and as far as that goes. But
not in losing. I'm talking about how Nick.
The fact that Oregon was able to stay with them for about a quarter and a half.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is that Nick's had a great rest of the season after that.
Yeah. Definitely.
They were able to turn the page.
Yeah, and I like some of the moves that they made. They had a nice recruiting class.
Yeah.
Been able to do some good things. And even though they've had some coaching turnover in recent years with their head coaches and whatnot.
OCs.
Yeah. They've definitely continue to put a great product on the field, and it'll definitely be interesting to see what they do this year. And I'm kind of pointing to these four: Oregon, Utah, Washington, and USC. If you can win one of those four, no matter what happens the rest of the season, I consider this a success. I think Kenny Dillingham's approach is working. How he had the decisions that he's made, everything. if you can win one of those 4 games, I think that this is heading in the right direction. This is something that they can build on, add on this season, and say, even though we're not going to a bowl game, even though this is a rebuilding year, we're not where we want to be. Well, that's something you can build on going into
I look at the pack in terms of 4 groups of 3, four. And you're right. If you can beat out of the 12 teams, if you can beat one of those top 3 echelon teams, you've really done something, right? And then if you beat one more, you're not a bottom dweller at that point.
Oh no, if you can somehow, some way split those 4, that would be incredible.
Yeah,
and I don't see that happening.
No, you'd be ahead of schedule.
From a sheer talent disparity.
You'd be ahead of schedule.
Where the two programs are. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's a long season. You never really know what's going to happen. You don't know how some of these players are going to develop. Mm-hmm. So, I'm looking forward to it. Even though there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, with the season, I think this team is still going to go out there and compete their butts off and still put on a great show and put on a quality product on the field that we can at the end of the day say we're proud of. And then of course we know what U of A is about, what they are, and I think like you said, ASU is going to be fired up for that game. That is their bowl game, that's their championship, that's their a game that they're definitely up for, because so many of those guys were down in Tucson last year, and the way that game ended, the way U of A kind of literally and figuratively stomped on us at times.
They were kicking Elijah Badger in that game, right?
Tell me he's not going to be fired up for that game. Yeah. Tell me he's not going to go out there and give everything he's got to put U of A in the ground. And and then they had some they lost some guys. I mean, Dorian Singer was supposed to be one of the great wide receivers for them. He's at USC now. That's Jaden DeLora proved himself to kind of be a turnover machine. I wonder where and they've had some good recruits come in under. They got that really good rushing the defensive lineman, the 5-star kid.
Oh yeah, the freshman.
But but one player does not a defense make.
Local kid,
it's gonna be interesting to see what that team is when we see them at the end of November. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Jed Fish has never really impressed me that much as a coach. He's got this team moving in a good direction, but at the same time, they lost so many players to the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. Delora's a decent quarterback. They've got a few pieces here and there, but they're not going to compete for anything this year. Not seriously, especially with as top heavy as the top 4 or 5 teams are at the top. I mean, and we're not even talking about Oregon State. We don't see them this year. They could surprise a lot of people.
They may surprise. They may take out Oregon again this year.
Oh, it's entirely possible. Yeah, they're kind of expected to be one of the big surprises.
Yeah,
the big John Smith has them playing. And, we're not even going to see them this year. So it's going to be an interesting year. Last year for the Pac-12 before it becomes the Pac-4, definitely going to be fun to watch. Even though we kind of all know the writing on the wall as far as what most of the teams in the conference are going to be gone next year.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, besides, the critics are rarely right past 1 and 2. This way I look at it.
Oh, I know. I never really look at where the media has us ranked.
Right.
Because I relish in the fact that we're going to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And they had us finishing 10th this year. We could easily finish 8th.
Oh.
And still call this a reasonably successful year, especially with what Cal and Stanford and probably Colorado going to be. Again, U of A
down years. Yeah.
They're good. They're good to win probably 1 game a year. They're not supposed to, but they're really they'll be like 7 and 5, something like that. So
yeah.
I'm not too worried about them. But moving on, our season predictions presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me, I'll start on offense. My player of the year, I'm fully expecting Elijah Badger to come out. And even though he has to sit out the first half against Southern Utah for disciplinary reasons after U of A, he is still a guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing taking that next step. From last year, he's going to be scary good. I mean, if he stays healthy and get on the same page with his quarterback, he's got a chance to put up some big numbers this year. And I absolutely have him in as my offensive player of the year. My MVP, I'm going to go a little unconventional here and go with the left tackle, Isaiah Glass. I always believed in strong offensive line play. And I think it starts and ends with your left tackle protecting the quarterback's blind side. And if you're insistent on starting a true freshman all year, you're going to need Isaiah Glass to step up and be a guy, especially against some of these pass rushers that the Pac-12 has.
Yes.
He's going to need to show out and prove that he can be a top flight left tackle against some of these quality players and protecting the freshman quarterback. Breakout player, I think Xavier Guillory playing opposite of Elijah Badger is going to be huge for him. Expecting him to make a lot of big plays this year. Again, this is going to be prevalent on, this is going to be dependent, I should say, on Jaden Rashada's development and his ability to get on the same page with his receivers. But I think he does eventually. I think he'll go through some growing pains, but at some point, the light will come on. He will get on the same page with his receivers, and they're going to have a chance to be very good this year and put up a lot of points. And I think Xavier Guillory has got a chance to be a big breakout player this year in this offense.
Good choices. You made it hard on me, man. I really didn't. I actually, I knew this was coming, so I made my own list. And so my feeling is that Mr. Conyers, after what we saw in the second half, really starting from Colorado when he had that monster game.
Oh yeah.
And the dog in him coming out, and he's just too hard to defend. He's going to take that 50-50 ball. He's really hard to bring out. His yards after catch and his ability to focus on three things: catch, turn, and get upfield as three separate entities. And you will not see Conyers looking at field while he's catching a ball. He breaks it down, right? Very fundamental. I think he's going to have a monster year. I do agree Badgers is going to be one of your big fan favorite superstar. This kid's got pro written all over him.
Oh yeah.
I'm calling him MVP just from a production standpoint and go-to. He's going
to be a go-to player and one of the guys that's going to, the team's fortunes will probably rise and fall with his production.
Yeah, he's just the fact his yards after catch, his speed is not quite Brandon Ayuk pull away speed, but it's fast enough to get him.
It's pro caliber.
It's pro caliber, yes. There's no question. And then my breakout player, and I think folks, if you haven't seen him play, you maybe saw flashes of it in the spring game. Scattaboo is special. I remember
watch his film. He was Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year last year for a reason.
Well, he's
got some game to him. Absolutely.
I really thought when I first watched him the first few practices in the spring, he was a north-south runner, and within about a week, I said, "Holy crap! He's got east-west. He's got some wiggle on him. He'll go up and throw some east-west stuff on you. He is not he's not an easy bring down. I'm telling you right now. So he's
like a bowling ball with legs.
He's going to drag his lower body is built out, man. Forget it. But fans are going to love him. He's going to be your go-to guy in short yardage situations, so yeah, he's my breakout guy on offense. So let's go to defense for a second.
Yeah, and my defensive player of the year, he's been one of my guys since he stepped foot on campus. Love watching him play. Called his interception against U of A last year. Cornerback Bro Torrance, and this guy's got pro caliber size. His speed's really deceptive. He's got hand fights really well. He does a lot of things very, very well. Plays both zone and man-to-man extremely well. A lot to like about this kid, and another year with some of the players that they put around him, I think is only going to benefit him. He was last year looked fantastic on a defense that really wasn't all that good, but he played the pass extremely well. Had one of the highest grades in the conference at the corner position. So I can't wait to see another year of him. And then my MVP in the middle, Travion Brown, the Washington State transfer. We talked about him a little bit during the player preview, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. This guy who can fly all over the field, make all kinds of plays, a tackling machine. Definitely a guy in this defense with what they have up front, I feel like can make a lot of plays, and somebody that I'm really looking forward to seeing, because it is a guy that I think that is, because the middle linebacker room is a little bit thin at the moment, outside of the top maybe four guys.
So yeah, I agree.
5, and a guy that I feel like can be a leader on this defense, and somebody that's got an opportunity to make a ton of plays. And then my breakout player, I think that he's really going to get after the quarterback this year in defensive end, Clayton Smith, coming over the way he did from University of Texas. Or excuse me, he's the Oklahoma guy. Dorba's the Texas guy.
Right.
But as a guy who can pin his ears back and get after the quarterback with anybody, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him put up some double-digit sacks this year, and somebody that you can count on to make the big play in crunch time around the edge. So definitely looking forward to watching him play.
So I love Clayton Smith. You're absolutely right. He's my player of the year. I think the defense is sort of designed for him to get probably the most. I don't know, between Travion in the middle linebacker and him, they should contend for most number of tackles, I think.
Sure.
And maybe Clayton will be kind of the assist guy in many cases, but he's going to be disruptive, and he's going to get to that quarterback, and people are going to love his sack production this year. Your MVP, Jordan Clark, he's as solid as a rock, smart player, understands the game. He got a high football IQ. Love the kid, and he's a leader. He is an absolute leader out there. Expect him to, and he's not deterred in this. If you heard his interview yesterday, as far as this whole the no bowl thing going on, he had his head screwed on straight completely. And then I'm really high, completely out of left field. This kid who came from USC, who at times last year just really flashed. It was just a real just a burner. Nobody ever got behind him on defense last year. I think Xavier Alford from SC could have a really monster year, and I've seen him break up more balls and get hands on balls this year that other players just couldn't get to. So I expect big things out of Mr. Alford. So where are we now? Well, we're at season predictions.
Yeah. I was after the bowl ban, I was very tempted to drop my prediction to 5-7. But then seeing what Kenny Dillingham and the players came out and said, and I believe them when they say that they're fully committed and that they're going to fight to the last second in this season. I'm sticking at 6-6. That's kind of what I had them around 7-5 before. But I mean, they've had some tough injuries, especially on the defensive line, and a couple other positions. In between that, and I think it'll definitely be a growing pains year a little bit. It's not going to be all hype and whatnot. It's going to be a tough season. I think I've kind of prepared myself for that, but I still think ASU is capable of going 6-6. Hopefully that'll be the case. With a win over U of A and a win over one of those four: USC, Utah, Washington, and Oregon. And one of those four and beat U of A, I consider this a successful season.
Yeah, so, and I'm with you, Ryan, for a couple of reasons. While, like I say, I respect Coach Dilly, for making a ballsy choice at quarterback. You were right; they were going to keep him on a short leash. because no coach, not I
Yeah,
don't know.
he can't turn the ball over. He can't turn the ball over a bunch.
I've never met a coach yet who says we're going to play a quarterback for next to develop him for next year. Yeah, he'll be developed, but if he's not getting the job done, we have a very, very reliable, highly accurate backup right now in Bourget.
Trent Bourget, yes,
So,
and look what he did as a backup last year.
Well, and I so contend had he played at Stanford, we would have won that game easily.
Yeah,
so I guess my point is we're better at that position. We are better at running back. We have 4 running backs. We've already shown you tonight that we have 8 deep on the O line as opposed to 6. Better, deeper wide receiver and tight end core. And on defense, we're going to get after you. It's going to be energetic and quick. So yeah, the weakest,
definitely a nice change from last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, again, the weakest link in this chain really probably is your middle linebacker or your linebacker crew. But
it's thin, but maybe not weak.
Well,
I like what they have in Travion Brown. I think that he was an anchor on that Washington State defense last year that played so well and put up was one of the top finishers in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So you couple him and you get production out of your D line. And we think the secondary is going to probably be the strength of the defense.
Right.
They can make some plays. I think this is a very capable defense.
Yeah, you develop this identity of being ball hawks, right? And suddenly you're winning a couple more games than you should.
You're creating opportunities for your offense when you do that. Absolutely.
That's right. And I think if we learn, I think you have enough coaches on this staff who've been head coaches, who have won championships, who understand how to manage a game as we go through this. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. So that's why I'm going with 6-6. I just see way better talent on the field and a better attitude than I see last year. So that's why I'm 6-6.
We might be a little bit too close to the situation to judge it. I mean, you should see our predictions from last year.
Oh,
yeah. But we won't tug at that thread. But at the same time, I still think this is an encouraging team. I think there's a lot to like about this team, even with the bowl ban. Their attitude and their desire and their commitment to the program and to one another, I think is very encouraging. So I'm really looking forward to watching this team step out on the field every Saturday. After this week, the only non-Saturday game this week, on this coming Thursday, the Southern Utah Thunderbirds come into Sun Devil Stadium, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about them. We definitely need to wrap up the show because I know we've been keeping you here a while. Those of you stuck with us this far, God bless you. Appreciate you doing that.
Thanks.
Southern Utah Thunderbirds, member of the newly formed United Athletic Conference, which is a pretty catchy name. I actually like that quite a bit. It's a football-only merger between the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, and the Atlantic Sun Conference. Based out of Cedar City, Utah, ASU actually faced Southern Utah for the first time in its history 2 years ago and beat them in the 2021 season opener 41-14. Southern Utah, decent record last year. 2 years ago, they only won 1 game, so they're heading in the right direction. A 5-6 record last year, finished in 7th. Their only major game against Power 5 teams when they lost to the Utes 73-7. So they definitely got blown out in that game, but still, for where they are, FBS school in the Western Athletic Conference, or excuse me, the United Athletic Conference.
The UAC.
Yes, I think they're heading in the right direction under second-year coach Delane Fitzgerald. He came up as a small school coach out of Frostburg State, South Virginia, a winner, 91 wins in his career as a head coach.
Not bad.
They were very good last year defensively, 3rd in the nation in turnover margin. That was kind of their hallmark. That's what a lot of people are kind of expecting from them this year. And for Southern Utah to have any kind of a chance to at least make this game competitive, they are going to need to win the turnover battle. That's kind of what the experts are saying. And so that's what we'll say, naturally.
Yep. They don't lie.
Talking about their offense here, Justin Miller, the 3rd year as a starter in this program. Last year, solid numbers for him, 65% completion, over 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Also had 2 rushing touchdowns. but he's a pocket guy. He's not a guy who's going to get out and run very much. Minus 64 net rushing yards last year. And he was also sacked 20 times. So not the most fleet of foot guy, and certainly somebody who prefers to stay in the pocket and just sit back there and toss. So if you can put some pressure on him, definitely it gives you a better chance. And then at running back, it's probably their best weapon, one of their best weapons. Braden Whistler, the Utah transfer, last year 74 carries, 422 yards, and a touchdown. He wasn't even really the full-time starter last year. They had a few guys who had 30 or more carries. And this year they're kind of looking to him to be the guy. So I fully expect him to get more than 100 carries this year. A guy who, is kind of not the biggest guy, but certainly somebody with got some nice moves, can break tackles. Definitely somebody to watch out for out of the backfield. And then another big weapon, Isaiah Wooden, very kind of an interesting guy from a numbers standpoint. Last year, 38 receptions, 778 yards, and 6 touchdowns. But he also had 253 rushing yards on 38 carries and 2 rushing touchdowns. So again, another guy who's kind of a Swiss Army knife. They'll line him up all over the field, use him in a lot of different ways, just try to find ways to get him the ball in space. He's on the Senior Bowl watch list this year. So certainly somebody that teams are scouting and looking at, somebody that could make an impact at the next level. And then offensive lineman Lyle Santos, I think he's one of the plays on the inside. Preseason all-conference first team. Certainly somebody that can make an impact at the line. Somebody you kind of have to you want to kind of rush away from, I think, for the most part. And then this defense is kind of interesting because a lot of turnover from last year. Defensive lineman Robert Horsey was with Delane Fitzgerald at Frostburg State, transferred over. He was an all-conference selection last year. Also on the Senior Bowl watch list. Certainly somebody that put up some nice numbers and can get after it on that D line. And a local kid from nearby Gilbert Highland, linebacker Connor Cullimore, kind of the defensive leader. 76 tackles, 1.5 sacks, forced fumble recovery in 2022. Was both first team all conference and all freshman last year. So certainly somebody who's going to be going to anchor that defense and be a nice player for them. Then playing next to him, linebacker Aubrey Nellums, another guy he's a guy who's going to rip the ball out. 4 forced fumbles to go on 52 tackles last year. Second team all conference. It's a nice pair that they got playing in the middle for them at linebacker. So
both young, both sophomores.
Yeah, right. And then the DBs are kind of an interesting story because they were kind of one of the hallmarks of this team last year. Again, was turnovers.
Turnovers, yeah.
They had like 14 or 15 interceptions as a team last year. But most of that production is either graduated or transferred. DBs, their own defensive coordinators call them a work in progress. They're very young, inexperienced, and their leader, one of the leading, tacklers at corner from last year, his name is Kadir Lockett-Smith, is injured to start the year. So don't really know what to expect out of these DBs, except for a few, names as far as guys who were young and promising and hungry, but that don't pay the bills. We'll see what they look like on Saturday. This could be a good opportunity for Jaden Rashada and this receiving corps to kind of go to work. And,
so what do you do
numbers
when you don't have film on these guys? You just have to look at what system they ran.
You still want to study the film from last year because you want to see scheme.
Right.
You want to see scheme. You want to see even though the guys that the guys you're watching aren't going to be on the team or aren't playing in the game, you're still looking at scheme. You're probably going to look for high school film on some of these kids that you're going to see. So, I mean, it is kind of a, you're taking kind of a different approach than I think you normally would against a conference opponent,
Well,
for instance. But
and then you always have you also have your own coaches who say, we played against that guy. I know that kid from high school. We played against him in non-conference. I mean, there's
yeah,
always a tree that kind of that overlaps in
and
this thing.
yeah, and you can't tell me that Charlie Rayl at Idaho State
There,
didn't recruit some of these kids.
oh, he saw them. Yeah,
Oh yeah, he
he
definitely
saw them.
saw them.
If you're
So
being looked at Southern Utah, you're probably looked at in Idaho. Yeah.
definitely.
So yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. And then, just kind of going into our score predictions here, both of us don't really ASU should take care of business out here. I don't see a replay of Eastern Michigan again, just from a sheer talent standpoint. In fact, I think this team will come out inspired, even with a freshman quarterback. I haven't seen enough from Southern Utah to make me think this is a team that can pull off this kind of upset. If ASU just comes out and dominates at the line of scrimmage like they should, takes care of the ball, doesn't turn it over, doesn't make stupid penalties, shows that they're different from the previous regime, and are just go out there and play like they know they can. There's no reason they shouldn't win this game by at least by I would say minimum 20 points.
Last year, I would like to talk about Eastern Michigan, right? That was
we don't want to talk about it, but it's going to come up.
Look at that! Look at the season they had. They went on. Yes. They had a good season. Did they go? I think they went to a bowl.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they did, and they pulled off an upset or two along the way. Besides us, they were way better than we certainly. And it was a classic trap game for as far as we were concerned.
Was. Yes.
And but I don't see any of that happening on this date.
No.
Not.
No, I don't
and there's going to be some really fired up Sun Devils come Thursday. They're tired of hitting each other.
Yeah, and if the graphic wasn't clear, by the way, both of us are picking ASU to win.
Yeah, sorry.
Just and if you didn't already know, I'm just
sorry about
for the record, I'm making that clear.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Definitely show up on Thursday. The only non-Saturday game again, 7 p.m. kickoff. It is going to be hot. I know we'll all be very sweaty, but hey, let's be sweaty together. Let's go out there, support these kids, support this team.
We may get a little rain shower.
There are thunderstorms in the forecast.
Yes,
I know. I am not looking forward to that. By the way, interesting time. Thank you for the.
Bring your poncho.
But in any case, it should be fun. To go out there and catch some football, and definitely love our Sun Devils, and we want to see them start the Kenny Dillingham era off right, and take it to the Thunderbirds, clip the Thunderbirds, and dilly. We want this team to go out there and start it off right, and even though there's no bowl game this year, still go out there, give a maximum effort, and do it and represent the school and all of us very well. So for that, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Our season preview. I know we ran a little long. We always do in this game, in this season opening show. A lot to get to, but we say good night. Go Devils. Forks up. Clip the Thunderbirds.
Clip the birds, baby. Yep. Peace.